Hello, Michael and Eddie. So wonderful to get you guys on. Wow. From the Fortunes, what can I say?
Yeah. Just up the road. Just up the road from me as well, Vibal, aren't you? Birmingham.
Birmingham, yeah. Where are you based?
Yeah,
No.
Just outside Solihull.
Oh, in Solihull, yeah. See, I like
outside
the way
their little village.
I like the way that you didn't include Solihull in Birmingham. You kind of kept it separate there. So, how about you, Ed?
I keep.
Go on, Michael. You were just going to say.
I was going to say I keep Coventry even more separater.
How about you, Eddie? Where are you based?
Well, normally Manchester, but I've been sort of flitting between Manchester and Surrey during the lockdown. So a bit of both, really.
Brilliant. So look, I mean, both for those who know, you're both part of a harmony beat group. Am I correct in saying that? Which are called
originally,
which are called the Fortunes, who have been going on since 1963. Is that right?
Indeed, yeah, indeed.
Wow,
long time, eh?
It is a long time, and for the record, you look young. Are you still young?
Young at heart. How's that do?
Don't tell them your age, Michael.
No, I won't.
So, I mean, when did you guys join? Because there's been a lot of changes since 1963. Because you're actually, are you the longest serving member now, Michael, for the Fortunes themselves?
I am now. Funnily enough, I had an email just this morning from a guy called John Francis. And he was the manager of the band when they're having the hit records in 63 to 66, 67. He managed people like Tom Jones and Shirley Bassey and all these. But he had the boys and he had the Rocking Berries, also from Birmingham. And Rod Bass told me loads and loads of stories about those times, the golden years, if you like, you know, when they were touring with all the Beatles and everything. And John just contacted me this morning. Apparently he's living in Mallorca. And he's got a big nightclub over there, and he's talking about getting us over. So I thought that's just a bit strange, you know. I mean, I thought he must be well into his 80s now, John Francis. But
and he sets up a nightclub. My gosh, and he's still living off the royalties. And he's still living off the royalties.
Yeah, he's still putting people in there apparently. So I just emailed him back this morning, told him we're still going. Told him the story about me joining in 82 or 83, whenever it was, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
I mean, for yourself, I mean, I was just looking at people that you have toured with, and I mean, just the list is just unbelievable. And Peebles, I Can't Stand the Rain. I mean, what a great track. The Marvelettes, Shanon, wow, wonder. I mean, I had to look them up. I didn't know that. I saw the names and I thought, those names don't mean anything to me. And I typed it in, and then suddenly you hear the track and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that track. PJ Proby. What did you find when you were touring with him? Did you think he was trying to do an impression of Elvis, or did he sound like that all the time and look like that? Because I actually thought he did look a little bit like Elvis, and he had that quaver in his sound.
Well, he was Elvis Presley's session singer before he was famous. He used to sing the demos for Elvis's songs, apparently. And to be fair, I mean, well, Mick will tell you, the older PJ Proby is probably not as problematic as the younger one.
Okay.
When he was younger, and he was a bit of a handful, to be honest. He was indeed, but a great singer. I'll tell you what, Vipal, and what a voice he had. I mean, it was incredible.
Why was he a problem? Just the fact that was it all egos? Because obviously, when you've got a lot of people,
no, not at all, not at all. I mean, he was a bit of a showbizzer. But he'll tell you himself. I mean, it was drink more than anything else that was doing him. He did like a bottle of Jack Daniels or two. Hey, do you remember do you remember the Blockswich Memorial Hall?
Yeah.
Do you remember that gig? Yeah. Well, we did that with Jim years and years. A little story about Jim. We did that, and he used to come on from the side of the stage. He put his hand out. All you could see was his hand and his microphone. And he'd sing, "Baby, when you near me, I feel so romantic." Only just his hand. And then when he got to the middle, he went, hold. He come running out to the middle of the stage, and there's a big pit where the orchestra used to go into. And he went like that, and he fell straight into the pit. That's a true story, that is.
I bet you never laughed so much.
I said, keep it in the show, Jim. But no, it was all right. It was funny. It was a funny night.
I mean, there were others with the likes of was it John Tilloston and Bobby V?
Tillotson, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just like, and Percy Sledge. Wow. I mean, what was that whole era like for you? I mean, at that time, were they big artists?
For me, I'm stopping Eddie talking here, but for me, it was one of the best apprenticeships a young guitar player could ever have. Because one month we'd be playing with Doshan and all up and down, because American Air Force bases normally we'd play with Doshan and rock and roll. Week after that, would be Johnny Tillotson doing country and western sort of stuff. Week after that, would be the Marvelettes doing full soul. You know what I mean? So it was all mixture, and you have to learn all this stuff, get into your head quickly, because these guys flew in. You had a day's rehearsal and you're off on tour. You know, that's the way it worked. But it was a fantastic apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm. What about for you, Eddie? Was your journey kind of quite different? Because I know that you're very much into punk music, and then obviously you've got stuff that obviously your band does itself. Do you find that it helps in terms of having such varied styles, or does it kind of hinder? Because sometimes when you might be performing with one of the groups, suddenly you're kind of like, oh wait there, I'm not meant to be doing punk, but I just fell into punk.
No, it's not quite like that. I mean, before the punk era, I was in bands. I started off in an Irish band, and we were sort of modelled on the Bay City Rollers, if you like. In fact, we toured with the Bay City Rollers at the height of the fame. So we were a sort of a young teeny bop band. And in fact, one of our members, Ian Mitchell, he joined the Bay City Rollers from our band. He died recently, actually. He was on one of their original members. So, and then I came to live in England in the 70s when I went to university in Manchester, and it was progressive rock that I went into first, prog. And then when the punk thing happened, it was all tongue in cheek. We did it for a bit of fun, but even to this day, I still make these punk records, but they're pop records. So really, when you say punk, it's not like sort of spit and sawdust. It's really more like the Buzzcocks, really, I suppose, poppy tunes with a little bit of an edge to them. And if anything, I think it helps because we all come from different sort of musical backgrounds. Michael, he had that fantastic sort of learning with all these famous artists like Percy, Sledge and all these guys. And I work with other people as well, but his background is more sort of show business and you know, the major pop artist of the time. Mine was more sort of the edgy side of it. And that's what helps, because when you bring different ingredients to the meal, it sort of, that's what makes it different. And we sort of fire off each other, and the enthusiasm's still there for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Did you, because are you the member that joined the band just recently? Well, when I say recently, it's 2007. Are you the youngest, not the youngest member there, but just in terms of your time with the group itself, or are there new members?
Well, no, what actually happened, and Michael will probably tell you more about this, but the original singer, Rod Allen, he was very ill in around about 2007. And he asked me, because I was in a band called the Dakotas, used to back Billy J. Kramer. And we used to tour together a lot. And I got to know Rod, and Rod asked me to help out when he was ill. And sadly, Rod passed away, and he wanted me to join after he'd gone. And so that was then. Since then, we did have a keyboard player called Bob Jackson, who still lives in Eastern Green, I think it's called, in Coventry. And He was in Badfinger, a band called Badfinger. And he was with us until he had to leave for health grounds. And we got a chap called Chris Hutchison from the Mersey Beats. So it's a bit sort of incestuous. So, and our drummer, of course, Glenn Taylor, he was with a band called Marmalade, who did Obladi Oblada and various other songs. There's like a pool of music. It's a bit like footballers. You know, you change teams, but we've all been around, and in some ways, that's what again makes it so interesting. The fact that we've all been in lots of other name bands. I even had a stint in the Glitter Band, but don't know if that's how relevant that would be.
What I was going to say was that you should say now you've got your dream team.
Yeah, I mean, look, bands evolve. I mean, again, Michael will tell you this. I mean, you know, it's a case of it's a family tree. I mean, and you know, nothing stays still forever. People have come and go, and yeah, and you always strive to get the best people you can in the team.
Michael, going back to obviously when the music originally started for the Fortunes, has the style changed, or do you still try to be true? So when you're performing, both of you, when you're performing, do you try to be true to that sound of back in '63, or do you kind of go, oh, wait there, things have evolved, and obviously, even to the extent of, and I mean, this is a different kind of question, perhaps for both of you as well, about the pressure that it puts on you when you join a band that's been established, and you're kind of trying to fill someone's shoes. There's so much pressure on you because you're kind of like, gosh, I've got my own personality. Maybe I don't sound exactly like them. Is that a different kind of pressure?
The pressure was enormous for me, mate, because I was working with the band. We'd won Band of the Year twice. We did TV shows. We've been all over Europe. A band called Smacky, who were then called the Eyes of Blue when we used to back all the artists you mentioned before. But the guys, Rod and Baz, came to see Smacky at a gig in Coventry, and they saw me, and they asked me that night, would I join the band? So I said yes, obviously. Funny enough, myself and an old drummer, Paul Hooper, was in the Fortunes as well. We saw the Fortunes at my dad's working men's club about a month before, and they were incredible. And the vocal harmony was just incredible. Anyway, they came to see me, and I did a rehearsal at Chesford Grange over at Kenilworth. And we rehearsed behind the curtains, with the curtains closed. And then when it was time for the show, I went on stage, Vipal, and my microphone, instead of being at the back where I've been all my life, was 4 foot forward, and I was like a bloody rabbit in a headlight. I mean, the pressure was enormous. I mean, what I mean? From being a backing musician, all of a sudden you're one of 3 lead singers, really. So it was. And when Rod got really sick, and he picked Eddie, he chose Eddie, and he said, look, if I'm have to leave the band, he said, don't go with Mike, you try all kinds of other people. And we did, we tried, I would say 15, 16 other people, but we still got stuck with the ball bugger. Because he was the best one. And Rod, yeah, I mean, Rod knew that, you see, but Rod did say to me when he was ill, I went to see him at his house, look, I'm going to have to pack up, but I want you to carry on. And he said, but you got to promise that you stay true to the name and you keep the standards up. That's just what I wrote to John Francis this morning, because he said, how's the band going? And I told him the same story, and that's what we've always done. It's always a proviso. If you're going to join the band, you're not going to change it. It's going to be as it is. So we do try and keep as close to the hits as we can, Eddie, don't we?
So
yes.
Was there? Did you feel that pressure as well then, Eddie, when you joined that whole thing of suddenly it's almost like I don't know, Britain's Got Talent or The Voice?
Yeah. It was slightly different for me because I'd been on that circuit for a while as a member of the Dakotas. And of course, when I joined I don't know if you remember records like Bad to Me, Little Children and things like that, but this band was already established and we had original members in the band. And for me, it was slightly different because I was already on that circuit and I was used to doing it. And initially when I was with the Fortunes, I was there, as I thought, temporarily. So I didn't have that pressure. It was a case of, well, I'm just helping them out, and I'll be moving, back to my own band in a couple of weeks. But I never left, and it just stayed. And it's just adding to what Mick said. One of the things when I did join, I was really, really encouraged was the fact that we all agreed that we wanted to make sure that we did the hits. We weren't going to try and put them into medleys or change them around. We wanted to or not note for note, but try and reproduce those songs as people remembered them. And we still do that to this day. And addition to that, we've even tried to revisit records that had been forgotten for many years. Some of the lesser known songs, and we're still continuing to do that today. And of course, then in addition to that, you look at new material as well.
Mm-hmm. Is the whole world changed for you in the sense now, if you look at that particular era, I know that it was the 63s, Michael joined in the 80s and yourself, was it 2007 or did I just make that figure up? I don't know.
No, that's correct. Yeah, 2007.
2007. And you look at the way the world has changed and the way now suddenly everyone has access to music. Does that change kind of where you're suddenly going, oh, wait there, we've got loads of material which needs which fans need to hear, which they haven't heard, we haven't played in ages. So has that changed your kind of approach now in terms of using the internet, using social media, in terms of making people more aware? Because suddenly you've got people who are revisiting, kind of going, oh, I wonder what the music was like in the 60s. I wonder what it was like in the 50s, 70s, that whole kind of thing. Are you adapting accordingly?
Well, we can't really. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the recording industry is sort of gone, hasn't it? I mean, you can write new stuff, but what do you do with it these days? You know, streaming doesn't pay you much at all. Eddie will tell you that. I mean, he's put loads of stuff, the punk stuff he put out, but it comes back in dribbles and dribs and drabs. You know, there's no. It was like our old keyboard player Bob used to say. He said the music industry flared like a big candle from 1950 through to 1975, 76. And then it was it. That's it. It was all over. Once the internet started and people could download stuff, there's no money in it anymore. We do CDs. We give them away. You know, people like yourself and stuff. But I don't think there's any call from now. Is there, that kind of stuff? But,
well, I mean, sorry.
But maybe, maybe this might answer your question. Eddie and I have gotten together, and because of the lockdown and stuff, we've been writing new stuff. And I was thinking just the other day, well, why are we doing this? Well, what are we going to do with it? But you are right, Vipal. I mean, I think the fans would love to hear it. They've heard the hits so many times. You know what I mean? There's only so many times they can buy a record with the 7-hit records on. So if we came up with some brand new material that was kind of based around the Fortune sound, I think people would be interested. And social media is a perfect media to get it out there, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, I this sounds terrible. I know everyone's heard of you guys, but I hadn't heard of you. But
well, you're only 12, aren't you?
Well, exactly. But suddenly becoming aware, I've suddenly gone online and I did some research. I started listening to your music, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But then suddenly it started connecting me to other music from that period itself. And then suddenly you're getting little triggers going off in the back of your head, going, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that, and I remember that. So it's kind of a lovely thing in terms of that. Well, what are you finding in terms of your fan base? Because obviously you're getting older. Is your fan base changing as well as a result of the internet?
Well, if I could just pick up on what Mick was saying before. The downside of the internet is, as he rightly says, that the changes to the commercialization of music, if you like. In the old days, of course, you basically lost money touring to promote your records. Now it's the other way around. You use your music, but the money is from live. And as no doubt we'll talk about later, we've got an enormous amount of live work once the pandemic eases. But getting back, one of the things that Michael and myself had in common when I joined the band was that the Fortunes, through Michael, were one of the first bands to have a professional website. Now, you know, that sounds ludicrous now, but going back sort of 15, 20 years ago, that very few bands of our genre did. I did the same for the Dakotas, and we very early on we realized the power of the internet. I mean, shortly after I joined, we went to America, we toured Canada, we went to Las Vegas, and that was through the internet. Even to this day, for example, in 2022, we're going to Canada, and that's through the internet. So the technology has definitely helped, and we're hoping to embrace that. And we've got, for example, our Facebook page, which is many thousands of fans. Last week, for example, we've got a song that's being played on a lot of other radio stations at the moment called Crying in the Rain. I was able to send a message to our fan base, and they inundated the radio station with requests. So you can use that, and people like you say yourself, who didn't even know about this stuff, they're hearing it for the first time through the internet. So it's trying to use that technology in a way that was very different.
I mean, which you've said, you know, in terms of using that technology, which is wonderful. And I read somewhere that you've got big fan bases in Holland, Sweden, Belgium. You know, as you've said, Canada, you've toured around there. You are still doing, well, until lockdown, you were touring. But next year, when do your tour start again? Are you looking, have you set days where you're kind of going, let's start penciling in, or is it a bit hit and miss?
It's not, to be honest, mate, it's not down to us, Paul. It's down to the agencies and the guys who run the tours. I've got contracts for the next 3 years, and that's 60 odd dates every year, 60 dates, with a company called Stage Right Promotions, and it's a great tour. It's like 5 bands on, and it's great value for money, and it's a really good show, you know. So that's in for the next 3 years, but that's down to them lads. They're the ones that book the theatres and stuff, so they'll give us a ring and say, look, we're going to have a go at this one. I think we've got one in January, haven't we, Ed, with
yes, I've got the gigs in front of me here. Yeah, the fingers crossed and pandemic permitting. We've 16th of January. We're playing at the Marlow Theatre in Canterbury, and then our tour kicks off on February the 13th. So we're hoping, well, I'm hoping, I'm sure we're all hoping that by then that the sort of pandemic starts to recede to an extent whereby we can start to gig, and of course people feel safe to attend.
For both of you, was your journey quite easy into music? Did you always want to be musicians, or was it a case of it was a hobby and suddenly before you knew it you were kind of thrown into the limelight, or did you have aspirations for other work?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I'm a different era to Eddie. I'm like 10 years older, so I had 4 brothers, and they're all musical. There was always something in the house to play on, like a banjo or something. But my mother made me, you're going to be a gas fitter, get down there and get to work. And it's one of those jobs, you know, straight from school on a Friday night, started work on Monday, you know. But I always wanted to play guitar. And I was at college, and I said, that's it. I had the chance to come down to Coventry to turn pro, and I grabbed it with both hands. And like I say, it was within 8 or 9 months, I'd met some guys down here, and the Eyes of Blue recording, and we got the contract with Shanon and Bob Vino, and that was it. I was off. That was you know, didn't. And I said to my missus when I was 20, by the time I'm 30, I'll pack up, you know, be a normal job. Then it was 40. It'll be 70 next year. I still haven't got a proper job this far.
In my case, Vimal, I've always had delusions of grandeur from a very early age. But,
you think he's joking, don't you?
But they don't say the ego has landed for nothing. No, I mean, in my case, it was I always wanted to. My family were musical. My father, I'm from Ireland originally, and my father was a professional singer, and he made records in the late 50s. And the whole family were musical, and so for me it was just I've always wanted to do it, and it's a disease for me. I can't stop it, you know. Michael says if you open a fridge, I'll sing a song.
Do you think in the whole industry itself now it is even more competitive than it has been, in the sense that you've got so many young people? You've got obviously the older generation and you know, all the generations after that, and the younger generations who are now coming through who want to be musicians. So suddenly there's loads of areas where people are trying to battle in on, or do you think there's space for it?
There's that much. I would hate to be starting off now, because all the places I played at when we were kids, like the pub, they've all closed down. There's nowhere for the kids to play. When I used to live in Coventry, on a Friday or a Saturday, there was 4 or 5 pubs you just go and play, you know. But they've all gone now. They've all closed down. So where the kids play these days, God only knows. I don't know.
So what's your advice? Is your advice go and be a gas fitter?
Well,
get a proper job, you lazy sod.
The irony is, Vimal, that like Michael says, that the live venue's not there, that today's young musicians are more likely to play to somebody sat on their sofa in Tokyo than they are to somebody down the road in the pub. Because yeah, you can do I mean, I do live streams every week. You can play to people all over the world, but you know,
painful it is. Painful to watch.
Painful to do, but the point is that you can play to millions of people, but it's back to the point Michael said earlier about the generating of any revenue from it. I mean, we're very lucky that we're still able to do these big theatre tours, and it's much more difficult for young people now. That said, you know, they'll always find a way. You know, music's is powerful, and it'll always find some way to get across.
What would your advice be then to any young person? Because there are so many who want to try and make it, or there's bands and you know, they're trying to do everything. What would you say? Just keep doing it, but have another job.
Yeah, the thing that makes me laugh is, I mean, it's like you watch it. I never watch them. I just can't watch them. I find them totally embarrassing. These talent shows, if you like, where you win the prize and you're going to be famous. I mean, you're famous for what? For one show, for one gig. I mean, I've spent this will be my 52nd year going up and down the motorway. You know, every single working men's club, every venue, every cabaret room, I've done them all, and that's learning your craft, learning your skill. So, but just to go out and say these kids, I want to be famous, I want to be a famous singer, they don't seem to want to work for it. But I think maybe it's not their fault. The gigs aren't there anymore. That's what I was trying to say. Mm-hmm. You know. It's a different world today. I wouldn't want to be starting now.
No, it's true that, and it's very difficult. But there again, they've never known anything different. I mean, young people don't, they've never experienced that, and it'll just be done in a different way. It's basically everything changes. Nothing stays the same. And the advice I would give, getting back to your question, to a young person, is just do what you enjoy, do the best you can, and see what happens. But I agree with Michael. This idea that instant fame, that's something that's constructed for TV programs. It's not real.
Yeah. It's there for 5 minutes of fame and then it's over, isn't it? That's it. But with you guys, when you do your performances, do you do covers, or do you just stick to your own material and that's it, or do you do cover?
No, we do all kinds of stuff. We do all kinds of stuff.
What's your favourite cover that you like doing?
Well, one of my favourite ones that I found when I brought to the band, they went, "You're joking, aren't you?" But we did it, and it absolutely stormed. We did a Take That number, didn't we, Ed?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We did, Rule the World. We did Rule the World. And because in the theatre situation, it absolutely stormed, like the Fortunes doing a Take That number. So that answers your question. We'll do anything that fits in the genre of what we're doing. I don't want to put a number in because, well, I used to do it before and it went down a bomb. If it doesn't go in the Fortunes show, it doesn't go in, basically. That's right, isn't it? That's the way we think.
Yeah, I mean, picking up on that, the thing as well is it's going back to what Mick said about the original singer, Rod. He asked for the standard to be high, and so we try and ensure that any songs we put in, we obviously do the hits, and occasionally, and we're looking at trying to revisit some of the lesser Fortunes material, but also it's got to be something that's in the context of what we're doing, something that's got a bit of class about it. For example, a track that I emailed you today, actually, via email. You probably find it in your inbox.
Okay.
And it's our version of "Crying in the Rain," and again, it was an idea from Mick. He said, "Look, this." The Everly Brothers song, "Crying in the Rain," although I think perhaps it was Aha did it as well. I think the Norwegian band.
That's right, yeah.
When he said, "Let's try that," when we did it, we all brought something to the table. I remember thinking, "Oh, I'll do the bass like Simple Minds and Don't You Forget About Me," that sort of dun, 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 dun. And we put a big, massive 80s guitar sound on it. And by the time we'd finished, it's the same song, but it's nothing like the original. And that's the one we're getting a lot of airplay for at the moment.
Brilliant,
yeah,
brilliant. How are you finding it with your fans and that? Do you sometimes, are they enjoying it? They must love it. I mean, when you guys are doing your touring and when they turn up, though for you guys, the problem must be when they go, "Well, I remember watching you in '64," and you're trying to explain, "I wasn't performing in '64."
No, I'll tell you what, though, mate. I mean, I've been around this circuit now for more longer than I care to remember. But a lot of the people who come to see us, they're really good friends now. You see them at every venue, don't you, Ed? I mean,
that's right.
I've got some great mates, and I met them all through the Fortunes, and they are lifelong friends. And every time we go to a venue, a gig, we know that it doesn't matter what we do on stage because they're there to enjoy us. They're not there to make fun, or that's where they go on a Friday night to get drunk. They're all people there. They're all friends of the Fortunes, aren't they? And it's always a great night out.
Are they throwing hankies at you still? The women?
Well, they throw the knickers at the stage. But now they cover, one pair will cover the drum kit now, Vimal.
You're more likely to get a prosthetic limb thrown at you these days. I was going to say that they're actually a very loyal fan base. I mean, Michael's right there. I mean, we've got a hardcore fan base. I mean, when I do my little live streams during the lockdown, it's the same people. It's like a family. And you know, when we do the gigs, we see the same face. But what's really encouraging, you get new people as well, and it's lovely when you see somebody saying they brought their sons or their daughters or their
the
uncle.
daughters. Yeah, it's good.
That's
Yeah,
great
good.
because you know, the point is we're trying to make it. Which, you know, at heart we're still young guys trying to entertain, and we like to, for the young people they can see that, and for the older ones it's reliving their youth kind of thing.
So what's next for you guys? What have you got coming up?
Loads of gigs in the new year.
yeah, we've got so much work piling in, just gigs all the time, but it's all changing because of this damn virus thing. We can't say, you know, I get people emailing, when are you going to be back at this venue? We just don't know. We just, until Boris tells us we can go and do it, we'll have that jab or something. I personally, when this thing started in my life, I said to the guys, this is going to be a year. We're going to be a year off. And I wasn't far out. And I honestly, even now, I think to get back to where we were, it's going to be September next year. That's what I think. Because these tours come in, this tour we're doing with the Stage Right, they like February, March, April, and then it starts again September right through till January. So it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't do anything until, you know, late summer.
I'm more optimistic. I'm a bit more optimistic than that, because I think I think that hopefully by the time the vaccines are all kicking in, I'm hopeful that we'll be doing bits and bobs in the spring, and that it will gradually pick up as we hit the sort of late spring and summer.
I hope so.
In terms of other things, Michael and I are working on a new track as we speak, because as I said earlier on, it's good to get some new material, and we were talking about doing an album of completely new songs, and so we're starting on that project as we speak, and we over the last week or so we've been working on a new track, hopefully to put out in the new year.
And where can new fans, old fans, anybody find out what's going on? You've got a website?
Yeah, fortunes.co.uk.
Fortunes.co.uk. And are you on any other social media at the moment, or?
Yeah, the Fortunes original, isn't it called, Ed?
Fortunes Official. It's a Facebook page, Fortunes Official, and you can join that, and there's loads of stuff we put on there.
Loads of stuff on there. Look, guys, it's been wonderful chatting to you. It really has been great. Thank you so much for taking time out. Keep us updated about what's going on. Really appreciate you taking time out.
Thanks for that's really lovely, Matt. And as I say, if you check your inbox, I've sent you a couple of tracks.
That's great. Thank you. I'm just going to stop recording now. Thank you, guys.
All right, mate.